Yes. Jnanandasya Satsudamilitam Jena Tasmi Shri Gurave Namaha Nam Krishnam Manumati Shakti-putram Atrasya Rupam Tasya Grishma-rupurim-matirim Savati Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhikamadavatam Prapto Yasya Pratitya Kripaya Sri Gurum Tamnatasme Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Anarpita Charim Chirat Karunayavatirna Kalum Samarpaitu Munnata Svalarasam Svabhaktishyam Hari Purati Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sundipita Sadaridaye Kandaresh Purato Vasachinandana Janalambita Vujjo Kanakavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksim Vishwambaro Dhyavaro Jugadharma Pali Inde Jagat Priyataro Karunavataru Radini Shakti Sarupaya Gauranga Suridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namastute Vandeham Sri Rama Krishna Vaya Charanasako Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subalokiyo Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantarata Kanta Namastute Radhe Vrindavanati Se Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabhyada Sanmaham Pradiyatam Bhaktya Bhivina Aparata Lakshai Chittachakamaditarandamajhe Kripa Maitvam Saranam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Saranarabindam Brinde Namaste Saranarabindam Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gaur Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Praman Hari Jai Jai. So welcome to all, good afternoon, and we are beginning, if you will, some series of lectures under the suggestion of the devotees, especially Samsundar was the one who kind of...
No, he said the wrong demon.
Oh, okay.
He meant Srinivasa.
Okay, I went for Vritrasura. So...
Vritrasura today.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Yeah, after that I stopped because he spoke about something with the wind or something. And I said, well, that's Srinivasa, that's not Vritrasura. Yeah. I went for... No problem. So that was a good Yogamaya intervention there. So the idea we will be speaking about a section of the Bhagavad, sometimes called Bhava-catuh-sloki, which has to do with a series of prayers of Vritrasura, which appear in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a very interesting section because Vritrasura appears at least in the disguise of a demon, but he will be offering a very unique series of prayers to Bhagavan, up to the point that section will be considered one of the different Catuh-slokis of the world. So I think we will be spending one class per verse, it's 4 verses, but today we may have some introduction to the whole section, to give a little bit of context and background regarding what has happened after and what will happen before. What has happened before and what will happen after. Sorry. this statement. So this song of, if you will, if you want to call it song of Vritrasura, appears in the 6th canto, which is basically the intermediate canto. The Bhagavatam we find 12 volumes, so we are speaking here about the 6th one. So what we will find here is mainly in the 6th canto. The main sections of the 6th canto have to do with Ajamil and Vritrasura. Mostly the whole of the 6th canto has to do with Ajamil, and you know the story of Ajamil and the Vishnu Dutas, Jamadutas, and Narayan at the very beginning of the 6th canto. And then after this Ajamil Charit, or the narration of Ajamil, comes the Vritrasura section, which is really well known along the Bhagavad. And both of us will speak about the grace of Bhagavan, the grace of Hari in connection to Bhakti. So it's a very crucial canto, if you will, in the whole Bhagavatam. And these prayers that we will be sharing are really important because they have somehow depict the frame of mind of a devotee. How a devotee who aspires, or who is situated in pure Bhakti, Uttam Bhakti, will address Bhagavan. Vritrasura is not a Brajavasi per se. He's not just promoting explicitly Raga Nuga Bhakti, but the mood of his prayers constitute like the foundation on which Braja Lila and all that will be presented in the 10th canto of the Bhagavad. So that's a very interesting trailer, that is showing us where the Bhagavatam is pointing to, which will be the converging point. And interestingly, again, it's happening in the 6th canto, which is kind of right in the middle of the work. Sometimes when Guru Maharaj says you put sometimes a secret in the middle, something very valuable in the middle of the book. So Krishna in 9th chapter of the Gita, he said very beautiful things. And similarly here in the 6th canto we can find very interesting statements. And again, this section about Vritrasura is pretty much renowned, and in many other scriptures, for example other Puranas, the Bhagavatam, when they speak about the Bhagavatam, not always, but in some occasions, they will refer to the Bhagavatam and that book which includes the story of Vritrasura. Interestingly, not always, there are different statements by different Puranas, but in many they identify like that. For example, also Sridhar Swami, the famous ancient commentator of the Bhagavatam that Mahaprabhu himself revered so much. When he begins his Bhava-catuh-sloki, which means his commentary on the Bhagavatam, which sheds light on the purport of the Bhagavatam, the very first purport to the first verse, first canto, first chapter, he mentioned that the Bhagavatam it's known as the book that contains 18,000 verses divided into 12 cantos. I think we know that. Contains instructions on Brahma Vidya taught by the sage Dadichi, describes the killing of Vritrasura, and begins with Gayatri Mantra. That's what Sridhar Swami has to say about the Bhagavatam. Of course, many implications there, but Vritrasura. And Dadichi also is connected to this section from them. Also. And also in the Agni Purana, a similar statement is made there also, like Vritrasura, Badopitam Tad Bhagavatam Ishvete. The Bhagavatam is called Bhagavatam, and that includes the story of Vritrasura's death. That's what Agni Purana means about the Bhagavatam. So, and especially the death of Vritrasura. We will see that these prayers are presented in just before Vritrasura is about to be killed by Indra. So this story, and I will today give you again some summary of that, will be presented between chapters 7 and chapter 13 of the 6th canto. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 7 chapters of the Bhagavad, and there are more, as we will see, because after that will come the question of Parikshit Maharaj, but who was Vritrasura? Who was this so-called demon that was praying in such a wonderful way? So then comes the story of Chitraketu, still almost the end of the 6th chapter. So this is almost more than half of the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam focused on around Vritrasura's thing. Vritrasura's prayers. So these 4 verses, as I mentioned, had been defined as Bhava-catuh-sloki. So Catuh-sloki means 4 slokas. We know maybe of the Catuh-sloki in the Bhagavad Gita. These 4 verses that somehow or other encapsulate the whole content of the word, present in chapter 10, verses 8 to 11. We won't go into that direction. And also we know about the Catuh-sloki of the Bhagavatam, the most well-known one, which are 4 verses that Krishna imparts to Brahma at the dawn of creation, which happened to be in the 2nd canto, 9th chapter. But this Catuh-sloki, the one that Krishna speaks to Brahma, has to do mainly with Tattva. In this case, we are speaking about Bhava. Sometimes sadhus have termed these 4 verses that we will be studying as Bhava-catuh-sloki. So again, 4 verses which encapsulate the essence of the Bhava that the Srimad Bhagavatam wants to give us, of the mood that ultimately the Bhagavatam is about, which has to do with Vrindavan. But again, in order for us to enter Vrindavan, to access such a domain, we have to have certain things in place of Tattva, but also of Bhava in terms of Saranagati and certain proper conception of unalloyed bhakti, if you will. Because we should know how to speak about unalloyed bhakti before speaking in detail about Braja bhakti. That's a particular form of unalloyed bhakti, but we should understand what's unalloyed bhakti, ananya bhakti, uttam bhakti. So these 4 verses are speaking about that and are giving us again like a trailer of what's coming in the 10th canto, what will be fully unfolding then in the description of Vrindavan. Very much about, as Gurumaharaj would say, Ami Kichindarina. I don't want anything, Nadanam Nadanamna Sundarim, nothing but rendering bhakti to you. So let's share today a little bit the background story of these prayers of Vritrasura and also an afterthought about that. So it's interesting because, as you will see, Vritrasura will be some type of divine angel dressed as a demon. So that's a good point. Generally, Vaishnava Kriya Mudra Vijnana Bhuyaha. Not easy to recognize the Vaishnava and to understand his her movements. They may even appear like it. And so here we will find this. Vritrasura is officially is the bad guy, and Indra is the good one, the chief of the Devas. But if you look closely, the roles are inverted. And Vritrasura ends being the hero, and Indra, with all respect, as you know, is the villain. The Bhagavatam is presented as such for moments. Now, of course, we are not condemning Indra, he's a devotee as well, but we will see that Vritrasura's standing is much, much above. So, let's give some context before entering into the 6th canto and these prayers of Vritrasura. We find ourselves in the 5th canto, where at the end of the 5th canto, Sukadeva Goswami was describing to Maharaj Pariksit the heavenly domain, heavenly planet, Swarga, the hellish planets. And then he will start to speak about Swarga after describing the hellish planets. So then comes a description of Swarga in the 6th canto, eventually. And part of that depiction implies a description of Indra, who is, again, the very name says it. Indra means like boss. Boss is Indra? Chief. The chief one, the boss in heaven. So some description of Indra's situation as the king of heaven is there. He's drinking soma all day long. This like elixir, celestial elixir, like drunken of soma, basically. But also, we will see he will become more drunk in another sense eventually. So he's drinking soma and seeing the Gandharvas singing, the Apsaras dancing, and he's becoming effulgent in that heavenly context. And everything is very beautiful and very aesthetic and very artistic, and they are sweating lotus aroma So everything, even the sweating, falls into the category of work of art. So Indra is just delighted in all that situation. No? And everyone is glorifying Indra with Vedic hymns, especially in the Vedas. There are lots of glorification to Indra. So he starts to become more and more intoxicated, not only because of drinking soma, but because of drinking the praise directed to him, and because of Pratistha in brief words. So, and again, Indra is depicted in the Bhagavatam on many occasions. It's one of our main gurus in the Bhagavatam regarding teaching us what not to do. In this case, you see the Govardhan Leela and many other instances where Indra just like loses his mind, and in great part because of intoxication with position, Rava Puja, Pratistha worship, and so on. So the Bhagavatam describes that Indra is in that state, too much, how do you say in English, like full of himself. And he made a fool of himself, by being full of himself. So at one point, Brihaspati comes into the scene. So who is Brihaspati? He's the guru of the Devas. So that means he's Indra's guru. So when you are the disciple, your guru enters. We have been speaking about this these days in the lectures of Vaishnava etiquette, how we should behave if the guru is entering. Sanatana Goswami says in Kari Bhakti Vilas, you should stand up to welcome your guru. If you are seeing him for the first time of the day, you should offer pranam minimum, and not certain decorum from the disciple to the guru. But in this particular case, Brihaspati enters on the stage, but Indra is too intoxicated with Pratistha, and he knows that his guru is entering, but he doesn't want to lose the moment, because he was the center. Everything was revolving around him, and suddenly if his guru comes, means, oh, now a new center is coming, and I don't want to give the throne, if you will, even if it's my guru. That was the particular situation. So instead of falling to the ground, offering pranam to his guru, he made I didn't see him, and continue with the delighting in himself, if you will, basically. He was just on the top of the wave, if you will, want to speak in surfing terms. So he didn't want to lose the... he was Taranga Ranjini, as we say. He was riding the waves. He's a bhakta, but there are some byproducts of bhakti that may you surf too much. So the point is that he continued like if nothing happened, and everyone continued, but Brihaspati could notice. Indra is aware that I'm here, but he is not offering proper regard. He's indulging, overtly indulging in Pratistha. So immediately it is said that Brihaspati disappears. He went there, but he retired. So when Brihaspati disappears, Indra at that moment understood, oh, I made Guru Aparad. In other words, and he went to look for him. Indra went running here and looking, Brihaspati, Gurudev, no Gurudev. In other words, Guru Aparad is there, Guru Kripa is no longer there. That's also the teaching of the Bhagavatam here. Whenever you don't show proper regard to your Guru, you are bereft of shelter, basically. So Indra, again, was looking for him, Brihaspati did not appear, and it is said that at that moment, Indra started to lose his power, basically. So the idea, of course, is when Guru Kripa is retiring, the mercy of the Guru is retiring, the disciple loses his or her power. So at that point, the Asuras, that, as you may know, the Asuras are always trying to find an entry point into Swarga and battle with the Devas and so on. They realize, Indra now has lost his power. He has lost Guru Kripa. It's our moment. It's a portal, if you will. So they were thinking about entering. So they started to attack the Devas, and they fought and they won. And they took Swarga altogether. So you can imagine, this is classical dynamics in the Vedic lore. The Asuras and Devas, and one winning, one losing, and Devas losing, going to Narayan, please help us. We are in anxiety, thank you Narayan, and so on. So Indra had lost his throne, has lost his position as his king of heaven and so on. So he was thinking, okay, he realized to some level, I lost this because of offending my guru. And because of offending my guru, I'm without guru. So without guru, without Shakti, I'm no longer Indra, if you will. So he realized, I need to have a guru in order to recover my throne and all that. So, but Vritrasura disappeared. So he started to look for another guru, for initiation, if you will. So eventually, it is said that there's one person called Vishwarup that appears here on the scene, who was the son of someone called Twasta. So some new names will start to appear here. So Vishwarup accepted Indra as a disciple. And it was a type of relationship more in the ritual realm, karma kanda, and the guru will execute some yajna for the devas, and the devas will get benefit from that, and gain strength, and so on. So it is said that Vishwarup started to perform yajna for the sake of the devas, and the devas start to gain strength again. So in this point, the famous Narayan Kavacha is given to the devas. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam as well, like some, how do you say, armor? But the point is that Vishwarup, the son of Twasta, came from a mixed family, half part demon, half part Sura and Asura. So when he was offering this yajna, swaha offering to the devas, part of the offering was also going for his Asura DNA, if you will. So part of the remnants of the yajna were given, if you will, to his family, the demons in this case. And he was like secretly doing that, like chanting some mantras in clandestine way, without Indra noticing that. But eventually Indra gets to know that. So my guru is cheating me, basically. So again, Indra went mad for a second, and he killed his guru. He beheaded Vishwarup. So a bad move for sure. As we'll see. So again, Indra is giving an example of what not to do. So Vishwarup was killed by Indra, and at that time Twasta, who was Vishwarup's father, came into the scene. He became totally enraged of why Indra did what he did. So he considered how to kill Indra. So he himself organized a whole big homa, fire sacrifice, and he started to invoke a demon, trying to create a demon out of this yajna that may be so powerful that may be able to kill Indra. And this is a section famous also that is invoked sometimes because he was doing that, all this is in the concept of karma kanda. So he was invoking some mantra, he pronounced wrong one syllable of the mantra, and instead he was invoking an enemy who may kill Indra, but he just pronounced one accent wrong, and the whole sentence took another meaning, which was an enemy who will be killed by Indra, just by one accent of one letter. So that shows how karma kanda, you have to perform that and it'll leave very little mistake, everything turns upside down. So we don't follow that. But the Bhagavatam is showing indirectly, like, okay, the price of those paths, if you will. So the point is, whatever he said, even though he didn't realize it, I'm creating an enemy that will be killed by Indra. So from this fire, eventually a powerful demon appeared, like giant, kilometers long, called Vritrasura. So now Vritrasura is appearing on scene, finally. And it is said that Vritrasura appeared, and he had such a size that all the devas became frightened, just like seeing him at the distance, started trembling, thinking, this only guy can kill us all in one single hit. He was so big. Devas were 33 million, but this only guy was able to smash them. Vritrasura, Vritra means someone like encompasses all, like all pervading almost, like because of such a size he has. So it was like the Vritrasura. Although he will be more Sura than Asura. So the point is that you can imagine the devas at this moment will just run to Vishnu, Narayan, what to do, help us recover our throne. So he says to them, okay, go to one sage called Dadichi. Here Dadichi appears on the scene, the different main characters. And ask Dadichi that he may sacrifice his own life for you, for your sake. He will do it. he's a sage and he understands the necessity of the moment. And from his bones, he's a very powerful tapasvi, a very powerful performer of austerity. You take his bones and you will make a weapon with that. And that will be you will be able to kill Vritrasura with that particular weapon. If not, there's no chance. So that's a specific way to do that. So they go to the ditch. You can imagine, no? The ditch is performing all this tapasya, very severe. And all the devas come like trembling, crying, please kill yourself for us, basically. Because we need to make Bhagavan listen to us, we have to make one weapon from your bones. So, please. And so the sage was not attached, so they say, okay, no problem. Let it be for the welfare of the universe or whatever. So he died on his own accord. He had this mystic capacity. He didn't have to be killed even, like he just left. So they make like a thunderbolt from those bones. Vishvakarma, the architect in the Devas, was the one behind such a project. And simultaneously to say that Bhagavan was like, how do you say in English? Like apaciguando. No? When you are in anxiety and someone is like consoling or whatever. Indra. No? Bhagavan Vishnu was consoling him like, do not be afraid. And Bhagavan was saying to Vritrasura, to Indra, actually Vritrasura is not an asura at all. He's my devotee. So there is some plan behind all this. This is the idea. No? It seems that someone is a guilty party because of this, but behind that is a bigger picture and a bigger picture and like some mamushka that becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So he said Vritrasura is a great devotee. He's not envious of anyone. Well, the point is that after this, some battle starts between Devas and Asuras, trying to recover the throne, Vritrasura with the Asuras, Indra with the Devas, and so it is said that basically it's all the Devas against Vritrasura in this case, and he were fighting all of them single-handedly, you say. And it said that all of Devas start to become more and more afraid because they are attacking and throwing weapons, and for Vritrasura it was like toys. He would shoot them and break them, and so they start to run, to escape from the battlefield. You can imagine that's the worst ever possible thing that someone may do on a battlefield, like just running from the battlefield. If you understand the sense of dharma of the warrior and so on, it's like, Arjuna mentioned something like this in the Gita. So they're escaping, and Vritrasura starts to instruct the Devas, to the coward ones. He starts to show his real face, like saying, come here, do not leave. If you defeat me, you will win Swarga back. If you die in the battlefield, you will obtain redemption because of dying by doing your duty. But if you escape, you will just receive, how do you say, infamy? Similar to what Krishna was saying to Arjuna in the Gita. Where do you want to go? Well, come. But the Devas started running, nonetheless. And even if you say that some started to run and try to run and go back from Vritrasura, try to shoot him from the back, which is even lower than running from the battlefield, no? According to the war codes. I mean, you shouldn't shoot someone from the back. So they were doing that to Vritrasura. So Vritrasura was totally like indignated, you say? No, that's the word, no?
Filled with indignation?
Yeah, regarding the Devas, no? Like how you are supposed to be the Devas, you are supposed to be the Suras, and you are acting like totally against your own principles. Now, which kind of integrity do you have? So he started to instruct each of them individually, the one who were trying to kill from his back, the one who were escaping from the battlefield. But at one point, Vritrasura said, okay, let's make things more dynamic. You know? So he started to like sit here and he's just like a fighter where he was to really, okay, I will fight seriously now. So he did like this, and all the Devas started to faint just because of the touch. No, it's so powerful with it. And it is said that he starts to run after the Devas like a maddened bull and starts like to attack and destroy one after the other, like marmalade, basically. Like and it was like totally overwhelming personality. So Indra was still in what distance, and he saw that and he became enraged. So some how to say, like one-on-one battle started, face-to-face, like Indra and Vritrasura, and also the rest were already gone or killed or whatever on the way. So Indra first was fighting with some, how to say, mace. So he took it, he tried to throw that to Vritrasura, and again, Vritrasura took it with left hand, the less capable hand, you know, and just like resent the mace with this even greater strength to Indra, and he hit the face of Airavata, which was the carrier of Indra, the elephant, you know? and Airavata was like almost on the border of death. And Vritrasura started to insult Indra. You know? Instruct, actually. Not insult, but for Indra was like implied, you Devas only pray to Bhagavan whenever you need something. You know? Apart from that, you never are aware of him. You know? All of you are the same. You know? You are like merchants, and you are in trouble, you run to him. You are having a good time, you are not even aware of your guru. You know? So he started like to destroy Indra, just speaking. So when Sarga, there is some problem, so you run to Bhagavan, you know? And you have left your guru and killed your guru after the other one. So like, I mean, and you are Indra? Are you Indra actually? No? So he was chastising Indra and preaching, if you will, to him very deep sense of morality, and Indra was just dumbfounded, didn't want what to say. Not only because of Vritrasura's appearance, but his course was, I mean, generally a demon, an asura is not instructed in that direction. So again, Vritrasura is showing more and more who he is. And so we are almost about to the point of where he starts his prayers. So after that, Vritrasura says to Indra, well, you have killed my brother. Remember, he killed Vishvarup, who was his guru, and Vritrasura was born from the fire done by Trasta, was Vishvarup's father, so they were kind of brothers. So he said, you killed my brother, so I'm here to avenge, he said, avenge his death. Even though I know that you are blessed, Indra, you are blessed to kill me. Because he was, by the improper reciting of the mantra, and also Bhagavan said to Indra, you will kill him, no problem, he's my devotee. But he said, I know you will kill me, but I'm here to fight, no problem, said Vritrasura. So, let's fight. He was totally undisturbed. But at that point, he was like, started to speak about Bhagavan while he was instructing Indra, and became more and more absorbed in Harikatha. So, the official starting of the fight was not beginning, because Vritrasura was lost in Harikatha, in fact. It happens sometimes, if you really get absorbed in Harikatha, you get, it's a no return ticket, if you will, It's a no return journey. So Vritrasura at one point forgot he was in a battlefield, and he was just glorifying Bhagavan, instructing Indra, and at one point, as we will see when we study the verses, he was imploring to Bhagavan and crying in separation from him, and expressing his love for him, all this in the context of the battlefield. So this is the point when he starts to invoke these four main verses called Bhava-catuh-sloki, the so-called demon, mentioning the essence of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam, as Guru will say, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, you need to pay close attention. Because, again, part of its essence is presented by its so-called Asura. So in this section is that we find this Bhava-catuh-sloki of the Bhagavad, which is the essence of the mood that the Bhagavatam ultimately wants to deliver to us. We have not gone yet to the 10th canto, we are in the 6th one, but it's given some taste of that. So, next will come these 4 verses that we will start seeing tomorrow, but I will jump for a minute over those 4 verses with your permission and blessing, and go to the remaining chapters that come after the 4 verses, which help us to understand more in context the background of Vritrasura. So tomorrow we will hear the prayers and we will realize, okay, now I understand why a so-called demon is saying such and such thing. So who was Vritrasura before being Vritrasura? Who was him in his previous life? So that's what happens after this. Vritrasura will pronounce his Bhava-catuh-sloki, which we'll be studying tomorrow. And after that, again, he was facing Indra on the battlefield. Vritrasura was totally inward, praying to Bhagavan. He was eager to die, as we will see the prayers, because he was so much in separation of Hari, of Bhagavan, that, and he knew he was still going to be killed by Indra, so he was just almost at one point imploring Indra, kill me. No? Kill me, I cannot bear with this separation of my beloved. He starts to pray in a very romantic way, if you will. So Indra this time is like, what's going on here? So he's speaking this type of things after the prayers that we'll start seeing tomorrow. Please kill me so I may attain the lotus feet of Bhagavan. So Indra becomes like overwhelmed. No, who is this person? I mean, who is this person? And Parikshit also becomes overwhelmed. Who is Vritrasura? I mean, who is the person that is pronouncing such beautiful prayers? So, well, now we will go to that part. But it's to say that after this, okay, they had to fight. So Vritrasura comes off his samadhi and he has to do the dharma. Okay, let's fight and kill me, Indra, please, as quick as possible so I can go to my beloved Hari. So, but Indra at this point also is really moved. He has been really, Vritrasura somehow became his guru at this point, instructing him and showing a perfect example. So Indra starts to glorify Vritrasura before killing, before starting again the fight. And he starts to remind other so-called demons who were saintly people being born in the family of demons. He starts to think about Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. All of them were asuras according to DNA, but sadhus according to deepest consideration. So the same applies to Vritrasura. So Indra was really humbled by the prayers of Vritrasura, his example of devotion. So, and I need to say, I need to say that at the time of death, we cannot fake our emotions. We can make it so along our lifetime, but in our deathbed, I mean, you are what you are, or who you are, according to how you live your life. So, and Vritrasura was facing death. He knew, I will be killed in some time here by Indra, so he was not hiding anything. He was really showing which was his true nature. Again, he seemed to be a demon, but he was showing his true nature right before leaving this world. So Indra was glorifying him before killing him. Very particular scenario. So Indra takes this thunderbolt, finally, that was made with the bones of the sage Dadichi. But again, before takes the thunderbolt, but starts to glorify Vritrasura again. Because he has realized this is not ordinary person, he's above me, and I have to kill him. So they start to speak for a while between the two and discuss about the principles of pure devotion, and they have a uplifting dialogue. And after that say, well, what to do? We have to fight as a matter of duty. It's there, we have to do it. It's in destiny, imprinted in destiny, if you will. So, and of course, as ordained by destiny, Indra won the war. He was the winner, but as you may imagine, Vritrasura was the hero here in the story, in the battle, in this very heart-turning episode. So to say that Indra kills Vritrasura, but that takes like he kind of kills. They fight for a while, and eventually, okay, it's a moment, kill me. So Indra kills Vritrasura, but at one point he has to cut Vritrasura's head for finally killing him with the thunderbolt, and that took a whole year to Indra to do that task, because he was so big. He had such a huge neck. Imagine, it's like cutting, like, I don't know, 100 trees put all together, and you have to cut the trunk. Like those trees you have there in California near Daria, that are like, oh my God. We went to those parks, giant trees. I will cut these, prepare for a year or so. Because I like to say that Vritrasura was in samadhi. He was not dead. He was immersed in trance. I mean, while Indra was like killing him in 1 year. But Vritrasura was not feeling pain. He was in yoga samadhi. So at that point, eventually, Vritrasura dies, and need to say he attains the highest supreme destination, and Indra is glorified by his quote-unquote victory. I mean, the point is who was the winner here, actually. So it is at this point that Parikshit Maharaj, hearing all this story, and he's like out of his mind, like, who is Vritrasura? I mean, he's an asura, how can he behave like that? How such a demon could have exhibited such a bhakti for Hari? He's almost, at the end of 6 cantos I mentioned. So then is when Sukadev says, okay, I will tell you about Vritrasura's previous life. So to put in context, who is he and why he is was in that particular situation. So for this we need to go to the figure of Chitraketu, Chitraketu Maharaj. So to say that Chitraketu Maharaj was a king, a very pious king, nice, good king, but as many of the stories of the Bhagavatam and Vedas, the king only was having everything but lacking one thing, which is, I don't have a heir to my throne. I don't have a son. No? So once a sage visited the kingdom called Angira Muni, one of the main sages depicted in the Vedic tradition. And again, sometimes we have this type of the situation of the Chitraketu is receiving the sage, honoring him, washing his feet, feeding him, asking for blood. And Angira Muni saw some symptom of anxiety in the king. So he said, what's going on? Something is, you have a full kingdom, but as you know, you can have the whole earth, but there's always something lacking. That's the nature of this world. So he says, well, if a person is hungry and you put that person a garland, that person won't be happy. Says Chitraketu Maharaj. Like implying, I have many things, but they are not able to satisfy other need I have, which is, I want a son. I want someone to succeed me in the throne. So Angira Muni says, like he enters in kind of trance and says, well, I can see that, but according to your karma, you won't have a child in this lifetime. So you imagine to say that to a king who would want to see his descendancy, no, dynasty, continue flourishing. So Chitraketu starts to cry and falls to the feet of Angira Muni and say, do something to override karma and bless me somehow so I can have it somehow or other. So Angira Muni actually went there as any sage is going to visit the king to enlighten those personalities, give spiritual knowledge, not just to throw them deeper into material life. But he realized Chitraketu is not very open to that. I mean, I'm trying to give him some instruction, but he's just, give me what I want, give me what I want. So he realized, okay, he's not ready for this. He's not able to learn by listening. So you could say there are 2 types of learning. Listening, suffering. So if you are not able to listen proper to whatever came to your life in the way of some situation or some instruction, okay, you will have to learn a lesson by some more intense method, if you will. But the purpose is learning, not suffering, but learning, not suffering. So he realized that. So he said, okay, I will bless you to have a son, but your son will be called Harsa-soka. Harsa-soka means happiness and distress. Harsa means like happiness, and soka means distress. So he, like implying, you will have a son, but he will give you both happiness and distress. And Chitraketu said, no problem. I mean, he was just in ecstasy almost, material ecstasy, quote unquote. Like thinking, okay, there's always something like that with every child. He will give some problems, he will be a teenager, he will go out with his friends, who will know with some nonsense, some distress will come in that. He didn't have an idea of which type of distress was implied in the name of the son. So in this way, one of the many wives of the sage becomes pregnant. She was called Krita Beauty, and eventually a very beautiful baby is born. So Chitraketu was overjoyed, and he really was absorbed into the newborn child all day long with that particular wife of his, and almost intoxicated, playing with the child, delegating all the responsibilities in the kingdom to some other. He was totally forgotten of who he was, and intoxicated in the Harsa, in the joy of having the child, and not considering the other part of the name, if you will. But he had 10 million wives. I don't know how he dealt with that, but Bhagavatam say he had quite a number. So the point is that he was exclusively absorbed in the mother of his son, Krita Beauty, and he had neglected totally all the other wives. Again, I don't know how he was able to properly attend all of them, but the point is that at this point, not single attention to any of them. So these ladies were burning in, in envy. Not only jealousy, because there is a subtle difference between jealousy and envy. Jealousy means, okay, he has something or she has something that I would like to have. Jealousy. Okay, there's some degree. But envy means I cannot tolerate that you have that particular thing that I don't have. So you must lose it somehow or other. That's implied in enviousness. No? So I cannot tolerate. No? Vishwanath Thakur he defined envy that way. It means the lack of capacity to tolerate the success of others. I cannot bear with that. I need to see them in distress so I can be happy. It's like very particular mood. So these queens were like poisoned with envy, and that inner poison they had, if you will, took the form of outer poison that they gave to the baby. So they killed the baby, basically. Chitraketu's baby, he was just a few months. So the next day, the lady who takes care of the baby?
Nature.
Yeah, whatever. So she went and she saw that the baby was whiter than usual. So it means he was dead, basically. So the king came and realized, oh, my baby was killed, and he went mad. He was mad already of joy. Now he went mad to the other side of the name, Harsa Soka. Remember what Angira Muni said, he will create some affliction. So of course the teaching is clear here. Whatever is giving you joy out of material attachment, that very same thing in a corresponding measure will bestow misery, sooner or later. So try to be intelligent and realize that and not be attached, even though you have a son or not, or you have 10 million wives if not. But so again, Chitraketu fell to the floor and started to hit his head to the ground and was crying and shouting. So at that point Angira Muni came back. And this time he came accompanied with Narad Muni. He was reinforced. Because he said, but Narad Muni was incognito there. Interesting presentation. So they saw the king. I said, but why are you crying so much? You were so happy some time ago, and I blessed you, say Angira. And he said, well, my baby died. I don't know how. I want him back. So Angira said, you want your son back to life? Yes, please bless me with. Now bless me with that. Bless me. What to do? Sages had to deal with that. Bless me. As one I remember Narasimha Maharaj said that. Like he went to India and he said, in South India and Indian journal, they feel, okay, sadhu comes, you have to feed him a lot and you will be blessed. And he felt that when he was eating, they put like a plate, like impossible to finish, and they want him to eat and to eat and to eat. But actually, they didn't want to serve him. They want just to extract blessings. So this is, Krishna knows people is like that, and if there's a way to that, people approach him with that intention, but not the ultimate message of the Bhagavad. So the point is, Chitraketu said, I want my child back, Angira, bless me again in this way. Perform a miracle. Okay. Take Angira Muni. And the baby goes back to life. So the Chitraketu was again, Harsa, went to the other side of the name, overjoyed again. And they start to speak to the baby. He was no longer a baby, he was like a small child. He was able to say some words. They say, oh, my dear child, your parents were so sad that you had gone, so happy that you are back now. So the child comes back and opens the mouth and says, my parents? which of all my parents, which parents of mine? This life, I have so many parents and millions of lives. So he started to deliver a very philosophical discourse on the nature of relationships in this world and the temporariness of these millions of lives. So he started to instill, he started to say what Angira wanted to say in his first visit, if you will. But again, Chitraketu was not ready to receive the teaching at that moment, so he had to go through suffering for eventually hearing the same thing and now being open, receptive to that. So in this way, Chitraketu became enlightened this time by the sun. And the sun opened said those words, instructed the whole assembly, enlightened them, and passed away again. But now they were enlightened, so they were not lamenting on that. So Krishna does like this. Sometimes Krishna will satisfy the material desire of a devotee, but in such a way, he says in the Bhagavatam, that it won't take them to ask me for the same thing over and over again. So you want something material, okay, I will give it that to you, but in certain way that will take you to a higher level of detachment. Next time you will request something higher and higher and higher. So Chitraketu, just finishing 2 more minutes. In this way, Chitraketu became sober, if you will, due to pain. Pain has a sobering effect. He was able to realize the nature of life. And Narada then was out of incognito, and so his real form gave initiation to Chitraketu. He became a great sage. And it is said that in 7 days he received darshan of Bhagavan. You can imagine. That's intensive. Face to face, Bhagavan appeared to him. He chanted that mantra very seriously. So it is said that he acquired a level of perfection, like a Jivan Mukta, if you will. He was able to travel and to move in this space at will, without being affected by any reactions, and he was transcendental to this material sphere. So it is said at one point he was traveling, and he arrived to Kailash. Now, because now comes the part of Vritrasura. No? Remember, we are in that country. Do not get lost into one section or the other. So Chitraketu was flying in the sky mystically, and at one point he arrived at Kailash, which is Shiva's abode, and Mahadev was seated naked with Parvati on his lap, speaking Bhagavat to many rishis that were there in the assembly. So interesting, because his wife Parvati sometimes represents Maya Devi. So Maya Devi, all Maya Devi condensed in one personality, to have her in your lap and you are naked. But Shiva was totally non-affected by that. So like a very contrasting idea there, no? Like you have all the possible Maya in one single place, you are naked, that's on your lap, and you are giving Harikatha. So that speaks about Shiva's standing, totally undisturbed, absorbed in glorifying Krishna. So Chitraketu saw that, and Chitraketu was a great devotee, and he knew who Shiva was. And he expressed towards Shiva like in a friendly way, like joking, like quote-unquote insulting Shiva, like what a particular situation. Someone like Shiva in an assembly of great sages of being naked with his wife on his lap. Well, it sounds somehow ironic. And he was like laughing. But it was a way of indirectly glorifying Shiva and saying, only you can do that. No? So Shiva understood that, and Chitraketu was laughing, and Shiva looked at him and he laughed, but Parvati didn't like that at all. She didn't catch the gist of the joke. So basically she thought, you are offending my Prabhu, you are offending Mahadev, and you are, he's speaking Harikatha in such an exalted position, and for someone like you to come interrupt that, insult him, that's proper of a demoniac mentality. So given that you exhibited a demoniac mentality, I curse you to be born as a demon. So here we have the connection with Vritrasura, you may imagine. So it is said that Chitraketu was at that time flying in the sky. It is said that he was powerful enough to counteract the curse. But he didn't do it, like Parikshit Maharaj and many others. They accepted that as, okay, he's coming for some particular reason. He came down She went to the feet of Mahadev, Parvati, offered pranam, begged forgiveness, even though he was not really offending them, and started to glorify Parvati and Shiva and accept the curse with full humility. So seeing that, Mahadev started to glorify Vritraketu. There is a nice series of prayers in that section. There's a very famous verse he mentioned, Narayana Parasavena Kutasthana Vidhyati, which says like, sings the glories of the devotees who see hell and heaven as the same. For them, hell and heaven is the same, or mukti, whatever, because they are in a post-liberated status. They do not care about being cursed, going here and there. So in this way, Mahadev glorified Vritraketu, and as you may imagine, this is the reason why such a Mahabhagavat as Vritraketu Maharaj appeared eventually as Vritrasura, and that's why it's so called him and offered the type of beautiful prayers that we will see starting from tomorrow. So I will finish here. We are right on time now. So I think if we have questions, maybe after these days that we will share in the verses, we may have some extra meetings for questions and answers that may be connected to this series or to whatever questions you may have. So, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Daoji Gopal ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Vritrasura ki jai, Shri Vritraketu ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand. Vancha Kalpatarupishta Dipasmijayavata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari Go. Thank you very much, and see you at the same time on Saturday. Yeah, the day after tomorrow. Yay. I